Hey, and welcome to the Tuesday, March 11th work session
The Harnett County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I will call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Jaggers to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, as we call on you this day, we are thankful that we could gather, Lord, to be about the county business. Lord, we just ask that you would guide us and direct us and do what you'd have us do. Bless this meeting. We ask these things in your name.
Sir. All right, we got a hefty agenda ahead of us, so we'll go ahead and get started. Provide an update on the animal shelter and adoption center. Please note some action may be taken on this item. Barry Blevins and Mr. Coley Price. Good morning, gents.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. Hope everybody is well. Good news this morning. I'm going to give you a quick update on the animal shelter. First of all, I'd like to thank each of you for your support. Long time coming. I also like to thank Barry and Larry for all their hard work and putting all this together. So we're just going to give you an update. So, we were looking as far as the last 6-8 months as far as the optimal site, as far as kind of what we're looking at the criteria. We were able to kind of hone in on this track. It's about 3.1 miles towards Sanford on 421. This gives you a better map showing the city limits, Lillington in red. So it kind of shows it's just down on the right off of 421. It's a little over 10 acres as far as what we're looking at. That shows you a kind of a schematic about possibilities of what the shelter would look like with the building at the front and the runs in the back. I know Larry and Barry have spent a lot of time on this with Shelter Planners of America, and that will come true to form with RFQs that we're fixing to send out. The driveway permit, we've spoken with DOT on numerous occasions. They do not feel because of not enough traffic volume and traffic count that a turning lane will be required. So we've had numerous conversations about that. Doing our due diligence, as you're aware, we went to the Board of Adjustment for a special use approval on January 16th. That was granted. Barry had gone over and above as far as sending the surrounding property owners that we have to do, but he actually met with the ones and requested a meeting of in person or on the phone. You did not have any opposition to that?
There was no opposition. There was concerns, but none of them opposed. There were actually several of them showed up at the Board of Adjustment and actually stated they had no opposition.
So then we did a phase 1 environmental assessment January 17th, and all was well with that as well.
All is well with that. There's nothing under the phase 1. They just looked to see if they could see spills or junk or nothing like that. The only thing they found was an old washer. That was it.
So there is county water available, but we are going to have to do a septic system, and that's why we did the 10 acres as far as livestock as well as having the repair fields for septic. The soil analysis was completed January 21st, and that came.
And the soils were good. Just based on their assessment, they don't think there's going to be any issue with it. But there was no bad soils on the entire 10 acres.
And also the survey, and talk a little bit about that, about the boundary and topo.
So right now we're undergoing a survey. The boundary is completed. We're getting it recorded hopefully today, and the topo is going to be. We'd ask for a topo. That way we'll have a topo for engineering and those kind of things to use. So the topo is specifically for that. So and that should be completed within the next couple of weeks.
I talked a little bit about DOT, kind of where we stand with that, and we do feel comfortable there as far as issuing the driveway permit. We talked about the Board of Adjustment, the process that we went through there January 17th. That went extremely well. Obviously, unanimous approval for Board of Adjustment. We talked about phase 1 environmental. The soil analysis did come back good, wetland reconnaissance, and then the survey Barry just mentioned. So there's the overview. It's a 10-acre parcel suitable for the adoption center. There's all your due diligence that we have just gone through. And glad to answer any questions or comments the board may have at this time.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
Do we have funding to move forward with this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
Very good
Do
question.
you have you have a commitment from DOT, because their DOT is kind of rough getting a commitment from them, from what I've seen here in this county.
You're correct, and I think I've had 4 conversations with that. So that will be submitted, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, when we do the driveway permit through the application, and then they do approval of that as far as turning lane or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I hear you loud and clear on that.
Well, you know, I know.
I know them well. I can give you the number if you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank y'all. First of all, thank y'all for moving forward with this step. So if y'all are comfortable, I would love to have your consideration in the form of a motion this morning.
Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve this request for the purchase of land for this project.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the purchase of the land for the animal shelter project. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries unanimously,
Okay.
Madam Clerk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all for your hard work on this.
Discuss a request for approval to accept a 123 investment for EHHS. Ms. Ainsley Johnson, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. So I'm here today request approval to accept funding in the amount of $12,190. This money is issued to the Health Department from DHHS, and it's used to invest in performance management systems that can include help with accreditation, quality improvement, or workforce development.
Any questions, comments? Pleasure of the board.
Consider
Don't consent agenda.
Thank
Go ahead and
you.
add this to consent agenda for approval next week. Thank you much. Discuss a request for DSS to use the remaining amount of displaced ARPA funding that was designated for the DSS upfit. Mr. Paul Kowinski, good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I come to you this morning to ask if we could use the remaining amount of funds designated for the DSS upfit to purchase furniture for the remaining offices in our main building. There's $95,736 in contingency left from the upfit project. This is ARPA money that had been given to the county. We would like to purchase 66 desks from office value and done through state contract. Cost of the furniture plus installation will be $85,145. This will allow DSS to have new furniture in all of our offices throughout the entire building, and we will have basically completed the renovation of the entire building if we can purchase this furniture. The employees definitely appreciate what the commissioners have allowed us to do over the last year, the painting and everything. But this would be the final step to have everything completed where we can have everything checked off.
Sir. Questions, comments?
I just like to say that
Yes, it does. Thank you.
employees over there today.
Pleasure of the board to add this to the consent agenda for approval.
Sounds good.
Go ahead and add this as well, Madam Clerk.
All right. Thank y'all very
Thank you,
much.
sir. All right, Development Services briefing. Who wants it?
Well, Sheriff's on the rules again.
I'll take it. Right. Well, good morning, Commissioners. Sarah Arbor, Development Services. We have 2 text amendments, which we are bringing before you this morning. The first one is proposed text amendment case plan 2501-0002. Harnett County Development Services is the applicant, and we are applying to amend the Unified Development Ordinance to Zoning Overlay District Section 2 for the zoning map. So the purpose of this text amendment is just to revise the language about how the zoning map is maintained and certified to reflect changes in practice due to the increasingly digital world that we live in, and also to comply with General Statute 153A50. So currently, our text reads that we will maintain a paper copy in the GIS and Land Records Department. And so we are amending that text to read that a digital copy will be maintained with the GIS department. And should we need a paper copy, it can be certified by our county clerk upon validation of the planning director. And staff is open for any questions.
Questions, comments for?
I understand. zoning map for Hunt County is for certain areas. I don't see,
And I apologize, Commissioner McCoy. Do you mind repeating the question? I was having a little trouble
I
hearing you.
don't quite understand what you're doing here.
Yes, ma'am. So we have our official zoning
Looking
map.
at it- Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's all right. I thought it was me.
No, it's not you,
Yeah.
honey. It's me. I'm saying I'm not quite understanding what you're doing here. If you're rezoning the whole map in Hunter County or just sections of the map?
So we're not actually making any changes to the map. What we are doing is just updating our code to correct it. Because right now what it's saying is that we are keeping a certified version in the GIS and land records department, which isn't really how we're operating. What we're doing is we have a digital map which shows if you need to go right now and to look at the zoning of your property, you would do that using GIS. They have a layer that you can use, click on and check that way, which is interactive, or they have a PDF map. So what we're doing is just changing our language in our code to make sure that it's stating that this is now digital, so that it just makes our code correct the way that it reads. So
Okay, well,
Okay.
I got you now, but I'm sorry. I can't
No,
vote on
that's-
something. I don't know what I'm doing. I got you.
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So you just need a public hearing next week for this.
Yes.
Pleasure of the board to go ahead and add this to the agenda for next week. Go ahead and add that public hearing. Right, one more.
Okay, so our next case, Plan 2502-0001, and this is another Development Services sponsored text amendment request for Article 3, Sections 8.2.3 and 8.4.1. So this proposed text amendment is to correct the minor subdivision review requirements so it is explicitly stated that a soil report is required to be submitted with all minor subdivision plans. This has been a long-standing practice of the health department and the planning department when we take in these minor subdivision plats. Somehow it was either mistakenly omitted or just never added to the ordinance. But essentially, there's a check mark that is missing in the chart, which is provided in your staff report, which should have an X in it under minor subdivisions for preliminary soil reports, and there's not one. But additionally, what staff did was we did go an extra step. We worked with environmental health to just add also a little section that gives us a little bit of language for the soil report as well. So this is just a change that needs to be made. These soil reports are a pretty important part of the process for minor subdivision because in the absence of a soil report, you could essentially create these lots that are unbuildable, and the future purchaser of the property would really have no way of knowing. So this is just an important correction that staff is requesting to make to the EDO. And open for any questions. Thank you very much.
Questions, comments? Go ahead and add this to the agenda for a public hearing as
I
well.
understand.
Go ahead and add this to the agenda next week for a public hearing as well, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, item 7, discuss a request for permission to apply for a $20,000 grant for the county veteran offices. Mr. Rick Truesdale, good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
Good morning.
Again, we're requesting approval to apply for a $20,000 grant from the North Carolina Department of Military and Veteran Affairs. We can use that money for training, conferences, education, offset some of the compensation for personnel, office supplies, personal or public relations. It's not a competitive grant. It has to be applied for by March 24th. And the money will arrive in April, and the cut-off closeout is in August. So it's going to have to move pretty fast, and we are already developing plans, working with Kimberly and the finance department to make sure we do this properly and spend accordingly. So we just request permission to apply.
Pleasure of the board. Consent agenda. On the consent agenda for next week, that'll give you ample time to go ahead and get everything done.
All right, thank you.
We'll go ahead and add this consent agenda for next week as well. All right, thank you, sir. Discuss a request to approve the contract with Martin Starnes and Associates to complete the county's audit for fiscal year. Ms. Kimberly Honeycutt. good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What you have before you is a request to approve an audit contract for Martin and Starnes and Associates from Hickory to conduct the audit of the county's books for fiscal year 24-25. As required by the Local Government Commission, their contract has to be approved by the board each year, and so I have that for you.
Questions or comments from Ms. Honeycutt? Pleasure of the board to add this to the consent agenda as well. We'll add this to the consent agenda as well.
Thank you.
You're up again to discuss a request to adopt a resolution and installment financing contract and delivery.
Yes, sir. What you have before you is a resolution or a contract to approve. This will be the second resolution that you're being asked, and it's regarding the construction and issuing debt related to the Flatwoods Middle School. So the first resolution that you approved a few weeks ago was just to set the stage to give the staff the authorization to proceed with working up the documents and those going out, finishing up the pricing, issuance cost, and those items. This actual document will approve the installment financing contract as well as the deed of trust, letter of representation, and it also calls for a public hearing that we're required to have. So that public hearing, if you approve this, will be held on March the 17th, and that will give the public opportunity to come in and speak about this. So, and we have received the pricing, but we have not finalized going through those numbers because the amount of money that we borrow will determine the amount of our issuance cost. So we're still crunching those numbers, but the contract, if you kind of read into that, and the public notice that we put out, issued for you to authorize to issue debt not to exceed $91 million. We do not anticipate that, but we will crunch those numbers and get the final amount to you as soon as we can.
Any questions or comments on this? Now I have a question. Does this, we're going to add this for a public hearing upon approval for March 17th.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
Does this need to be left open as a separate line item then for
Yes,
the
sir.
resolution
Yes, sir, please.
as well?
Yes, sir.
Pleasure of the board to add this as a separate line item to the agenda next week for approval of the resolution, and we'll also go ahead and hold a public hearing as well on the 17th. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, item 10, discuss a request to approve a work authorization with Parrish & Partners. Good morning, Mr. Abate.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you know, we are currently expanding our jetport, and the next item on that expansion list is a runway expansion. And the next step in that runway expansion is a environmental study. And we are here today requesting your permission to move forward with that pre-NEPA study. We have Hillary from Parrish & Partners if you have any questions, and it is all legislative grant funded.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments?
Go ahead and put it on the consent.
Okay.
Go ahead and add this consent agenda for approval as well.
Thank you.
Sir. Discuss a request for approval of a pepper spray policy to provide guidance to eligible non-law enforcement employees in the county. Mr. Appel, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So we originally received a request, it started with DSS, of whether the employees who go out in the field and have to go into homes could potentially carry pepper spray. As you can imagine, some of the work does involve some contentious work, and some employees have felt threatened in the past. So they asked just for safety measures, whether they could carry pepper spray. So we had a discussion internally about that, whether to move forward with general county policy. I did check with NCACC to see if this is something that would be covered by insurance if there was an incident. They did say it would be. Obviously, they encouraged to us to adopt the policy that included training, which is what I have here before you today. Again, this pepper spray policy would apply to all non-law enforcement employees except for animal control. Animal control is going to develop their own policy and training and so on. So that will be adopted at different times. So this will apply to all other departments. Again, it would apply to those who be eligible for are individuals that go out into the field. They would have to be approved to carry a pepper spray by the department. Again, the carry pepper spray, they would have to go through training, and that would be, and then have to go through that training every 2 years. The use criteria on page 4 there, the authorized use of pepper spray. So those list out the instances in which an individual can use it, and that is to protect oneself or others from imminent danger or threat, and all other non-use of force measures have been exhausted or would be ineffective to prevent that danger or threat. There's to stop further physical injury to oneself or others, and all other non-use of force measures have been exhausted. At the direct order of a law enforcement officer, while coming to the aid of or assistance of a law enforcement officer who's not able to give a direct order, and then of course used by animal control in accordance with their animal services policies and procedures. And again, no time should an employee attempt to physically restrain a person or animal who has been pepper sprayed unless left with no other choice to prevent physical injury. So again, laying out that it's a last resort in order to use that. If an individual does use pepper spray, they'll have to report it and develop a pepper spray incident report to go over everything that occurred with that. And of course, guidance on storage, maintenance, and replacement, essentially just making sure it's stored at the department in an approved location, making sure that we check for expiration dates and exchange if they're expired or if they're non-operable. So happy to answer any questions, but again, the whole purpose of this is to be able to allow our field employees who may come into contact with public individuals that may have an adverse interaction with an individual.
We're gonna provide them with the capstone.
I'm sorry?
Are we gonna provide them with the pepper gas?
Yes, we would provide the pepper spray just so we can ensure that it is properly maintained and not expired.
Or they, unless training has changed, they have to be sprayed to carry it.
And the training would go through the sheriff's office standards training. So whatever they are requiring through sheriff's office, there may be a requirement. So I would defer to what the training, what they say is required training.
And it's not fun.
I can imagine it's probably not. I've not experienced that. You don't have to. Okay, so they don't have to do that for non-law enforcement.
I think we need to change that.
Well, I got a question. Will they be able to carry this off duty? I mean,
So
they shouldn't have to carry them off duty.
So this would be while they're working on duty. So you come in for the day or whatnot, keep it in the vehicle, but turn it in each day. This pepper spray specifically is not for personal use to take home, keep on the weekends and so on. The whole idea is just like anything else, work-related, has to be used for work.
Okay, thank you, because it needs to be said.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, comments?
Consent.
Go ahead and add this to the consent agenda next week for approval.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. Discuss roadside litter in Harnett County. Commissioner Jaggers, if you would. Or Mr. Bean, both of y'all.
Looking at what's going on, if you haven't rode around Harnett County and see, there's a lot of things we need to do to try to help correct this problem we have in Harnett County. It is, when you ride around and you actually pay attention to where you're riding, it's really bad. And you look at these things and you sit there. I rode the other day and went to the Harnett County Ashland Creek landfill. And I don't think it's just a coincidence, but the main roads leading to that landfill are some of the worst roads. And when working as a law enforcement officer in this county, I can't tell you how many times I wrote citations to the garbage companies that were not covering their loads, and they're going down the road and stuff is just blowing out. And when you see some of the trash beside the road, you can tell that that's probably where it came from, is some type of vehicle going down the road and it's not secured. And when you go to those main roads, you see those main roads, Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. The landfill is there for a purpose, and if people are using other locations to dump their trash, we need to figure out why that's going on and try to curtail some of that. Go ahead.
One thing I did want to, on this same note, I wanted to mention to you, and I just hadn't had a chance to call you yet. When you travel Birds Pond Road west of Kerner Road, you go by that first field and there's a patch of woods there on the left. Looks like somebody's dumped about 50 or 60 tires on that path. I came through there this past weekend and saw it.
Right.
Hadn't had a chance to get up with y'all yet. So you can have somebody check on it.
Be glad to.
Yeah, been discussing this for, pardon me.
No.
I mean, we've obviously been discussing this for the last few weeks, and I think there's a couple factors that come into play here, and there may be a couple things that we can implement. I don't know if another environmental officer to help control the debris that comes out of these unsecured loads, but also opening the landfill for a little bit longer of a time, or maybe tailoring the hours of operation to maybe help the citizens that, work a 9-to-5 job Monday through Friday, would it actually dump as well. So, got any remedies or something to pitch to us?
Good comments. I had a whole presentation prepared, but we're just going to wing it, if that's okay. I'm all for that if you're all for that. So I can tell you what we have been doing and what we've done. Came on board about 5 years ago, started the Keep Harnett Beautiful Committee and Board. That's revolves around a lot of your volunteers. We were really doing a good job. COVID came around and kind of put an end to all that, and now we're trying to get our momentum going again. Our Keep Harnett Beautiful coordinator is Morgan Pope. She does a fantastic job. She fields complaints from folks when they call, keeps an Excel spreadsheet of those roads and those that need attention. I will say this, the primary roads are taken care of by NCDOT. And make no mistake, NCDOT is responsible actually for the roads and the road right-of-ways and keeping them clean and picked up. They contract that out. We actually had a meeting with them last May, a good meeting to increase our communication with them, to find out what they're doing, what we're doing, how we can assist, and because we need to stop it, of course, but still the litter's going to be there, so we got to get it cleaned up. So we've been working with DOT, building a good, strong communication with them. We've got now an environmental deputy. Marty Ivy does a fantastic job. We went for a while and didn't have an environmental deputy, probably a year and a half. We thank the sheriff's office for their cooperation on that. He does a good job. He focuses mostly, though, on illegal dumping. Excuse me. So if there's a large load that's dumped on a vacant lot somewhere or something like that, he actually literally, pun intended, goes through the garbage and finds addresses, and he can write citations. He has all the authority, of course, as of any deputy. This is an ongoing problem. It's not just a Harnett County problem. It's a statewide problem. It's a national problem. I'm going to show my years and go down memory lane. I know when I was a kid, there was the old Woodsy the Owl character, don't hoot, give a hoot, don't pollute, I think was his slogan. And then there's the Native American crying, when he's looking down the riverbed that's got trash all over the place. So, I guess the $1 million question is, how do you get people to stop doing that? Because you're dealing with behaviors and trying to alter or change behaviors of people. I'm not an expert on that, but you're exactly right. I think with law enforcement's assistance, being able to ticket those individuals when they see that litter come out, there are some things that we could possibly do. Currently, scrap tires, you mentioned tires, there's no charge for scrap tires at our landfill. I don't know why people are throwing them on the side of the road. Mattresses, I know last time I was here, I think Ms. McCoy mentioned there's mattresses that she sees a lot of those. I do as well. There is a charge on mattresses, so maybe we can look back at our at our fee schedule and see what waste that we possibly could do without charging to encourage people to actually bring it to us. But and then of course we've got our litter sweep program, fall, spring, where we gather up volunteers and do cleanups. And most recently, this fiscal year, the board was very supportive. Administration was very supportive in letting us hire 2 additional employees that can just go out and pick up litter. So those primary roads are still covered by DOT, but if we get a complaint from an individual, we can try to address that on a one-on-one basis to show that we're trying to be more proactive and let them see that we're not sitting on our hands on this. I'm sure there's some areas that I haven't covered that I wanted to, but I hope that helps in kind of giving you a general overview of what we have. I did put up a slide to kind of tell you some of our infrastructure, our staff that we use. Of course, solid waste department, soil and water. Keep Harnett beautiful. I mentioned Morgan Pope does an excellent job with us, and the environmental deputy. Volunteers as well. And we also have Harnett County Juvenile Restitution Service that helps us. So pick up roadside litter. And I mentioned the 2 additional employees that we've got now. It's frustrating. It's you go out and pick up a road and then a week later it doesn't look like you've done anything, and it is frustrating. But I don't know how to alter people's behaviors. If you got an answer for that, I would love to hear it. But you're right. Law enforcement helps. Possibly looking at our waste streams and what we can accept at the landfill for free. Maybe that will be
Let me ask you
an option.
What is the fine for? Eddie, do you remember what the fine is?
It's staged on the offense, where if you're first, second, amount, things like that.
I would just like to say the one big problem here is that NCDOT, you don't see no signs out there for penalties for putting out trash.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense because for many, many years you would see those signs on the highway. $250 fine and all of that. What is the problem with that? Can you just check in and see?
I
Because
can.
it's terrible. It is terrible what's happening to our streets, our roads, and people don't care. You can't monitor people's behavior.
Yeah. I don't know what the fines are and what their fee structure is for penalty on that.
No, I'm talking about them
And
putting those
signs.
signs on the highway.
Yes, ma'am.
Major Woods, do you have?
Based on weight also.
Who?
Based on weight.
Oh, the amount of the fine.
Yeah, over a certain amount, poundage is considered a felony. Last time I checked.
Okay.
Well, it used to be years ago, and I'm not so old I can't remember that. There used to be a fine for throwing out litter.
What's the fine for one of these garbage trucks?
It's an unsecured
Starts-
load.
Yeah, it's
You
fine.
write them up as an unsecured load, and it goes to district court, and usually the minimum is the court costs. And I think it's been a while since I've done that part of the enforcement, but I think the same vehicle, the same person more than once, it goes up as you catch them doing it.
Well, that's if you do it on uniform traffic citation.
Yes.
But now if we did a civil ordinance with a fine,
That's different, yes, sir.
yes, we could set it for whatever we wanted to get everybody's attention.
My question is the hours of the landfills, I think when we had our budget, first thing about the budget, I brought up about maybe moving the hours on Saturdays for sure. And to my knowledge, that still hasn't been changed. And
There's a lot of stumbling blocks in doing that.
We started this past Saturday.
this past Saturday.
Yes, sir.
My thing is that the hours are 7:30 to 4.
That's correct.
And I don't know, I've never had a job that I could use a landfill during those hours because of
Okay.
my job's always had to be at work or always still at work at those hours.
Right. Now, that's landfill. That's not our convenience sites.
I understand.
Okay.
And Mamers, the convenience site in Mamers has been
Yes.
2 dumpsters since the conception of it.
Right.
Every community we have, as planning and development, we're growing out crazy.
Right.
So do we need more of those sites, or do we need more of the containers at those sites? Or, you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Because
I will tell you about Mamers. When I first came on board, we had open top containers. We did install compactors. So with a compactor, you can get roughly 3 open top containers in one compactors. So we're able to accommodate. And I'll be honest with you, with the growth that we've had, have been a lot of developments. So with the developments, it's curbside service, a lot of curbside service. So our convenience sites are getting hit, but knock on wood, we're not getting hit as hard as we could at our convenience sites, if that makes sense. Because it's curbside pickup. So curbside pickup trucks pick up and then they haul to the landfill. So those individuals in developments really don't use our convenience sites as much as a rural person. Does that make sense?
well, I've noticed that when you're riding around, especially after the landfill closes or the convenience sites close,
Right.
when people, it's not right, but they do this, they load their trucks up with trash, they get over to the landfill and it's closed. They're not hauling that stuff back home. They're going to put it somewhere else.
Right.
I know we can't set the hours to be able to get anybody's wish to go to the landfill covered. I'd just like to see us extend a little bit on Saturdays, because that's, if most people are off on Saturdays, there are people who work on Saturdays, but a lot of people are off on Saturdays, and that's when they do their cleanups. If we can make sure they're available to get to unload their trucks instead of going down whatever road they don't see a car on and throwing it out,
Right.
And that seems to be what's going on a lot, is that it's amazing how much stuff the people will throw inside the road.
I don't know that it's not so much that as it is they don't want to pay for it, because a lot of the items we're seeing are, it's furniture, it's that type of stuff, it's shingles, it's that type of material. It's not. We see some bagged garbage, but bagged garbage, there's no charge for that at our convenience sites or the landfill. If you're a resident of Harnett County, we do not charge you for your bagged household garbage. So a lot of the material we're seeing is your furniture and that type thing. So maybe it's time for us to step back and look at those type items to see if, maybe, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but we don't charge for certain items like that to try to encourage people to bring it to us.
The rates that the trash pickup people have, what are they charged? I mean,
at our gate?
Yeah, when they come in. I mean, are they gate?
Zero. And I'll tell you why. If they're picking up residential trash, there's no charge to a hauler. The only charge that a hauler charges, that we charge a hauler, is at the beginning of the year, we charge a hauling fee per truck. So I think it's like $150 we charge per truck. So if you've got a fleet of 10 trucks, we're going to charge you for 10 trucks for $150 each. But if you come across those scales and you've picked up at a neighborhood and it's residential trash, there's no charge at our landfill for that, because it's covered in your availability fee,
right?
Which is put out through Christine
we
Tax
still don't
Department.
have any way of knowing that garbage truck didn't pick up in Cumberland County.
So that's a great
picked up
question.
in Johnson County. We don't have any way of knowing that.
So we do spot check. We'll go through and get addresses, and sometimes there is an address from Fuquay Varina, or which some of part of Fuquay is in Harnett County, or it may be Cameron, and some of Cameron may be in Harnett County. But we'll look at those addresses, and we could take pictures, and we charge for illegal waste. There's a $100 fine for illegal waste. So that's how we cover that cost, because we are only permitted to accept Harnett County waste. So anybody that comes out of county is not supposed to dump in Harnett County.
I want to clarify to you, though, in no way am I saying that you're responsible for the trash beside the roads. Okay,
Well, thank
I don't want you to think that. No,
No, I understand.
we're just bringing it up because maybe we need, if you could coordinate with the county manager and the sheriff's office, and maybe once in a while have a focus on enforcement. More than just Deputy Ivy, but maybe a group to come together and they, once a month or once a quarter or something,
Right.
they go out and just focus on trash violations and not where trash piles are at, but like people committing the crimes at the time, things like that, once in a while.
All for that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Wood?
Major Wood, did you have a comment?
Maybe off base, but what happened to DOC picking up the trash? When I was a kid, every day you see them on the road.
I agree.
Picking up trash.
Yeah.
And I do want you to check on those signs
Yes, ma'am.
where citizens are fined if they are caught throwing trash, putting trash beside the road. We need to know about that because I don't see them anywhere in Harnett County.
Right. I agree. So I've got my marching orders here. We'll get together with the sheriff's office. But keep in mind also, North Carolina Public Safety website encourages people too, if you see people littering, to hit star HP, because Highway Patrol can write those citations just as much as sheriff's office. So it doesn't fall solely on us as Harnett County. I want you to understand that. But it is good that we're having these conversations and that we're being this aggressive because it is an issue here. I agree.
Is that something that we can go ahead and put out, something to start encouraging, get a flyer or put together a program or a push for all of this? Yeah.
And I understand again, this was not intended to be directed at you personally.
Oh, I understand that,
These are
yes.
all complaints we're all getting, and on a more positive note, I don't know who you've got looking after Red Hill Church Road, but it doesn't seem to be as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, it is a pain.
But that's the main thoroughfare from Dunn and Irwin going to the landfill, and we know.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't look as bad as it used to.
Red Hill, Turlington, Nursery, Docks Road, all those. Since we've got our 2 new employees, thanks to you guys and administration, we're able to tackle those, and those are the high traffic areas for trash.
Have them at 3 Bridge Road.
Yeah, 3 Bridge is bad.
When they come across the bridges, nobody can see them for either direction, and it gets dumped out right there.
We've even tried wildlife cameras on that road. Weren't able to really get license plates and that type thing, so we are looking at cameras, but so far it hasn't been very productive. But most people say, hey, just put cameras out. But we don't get the information we need a lot of times, license plates, etc. So
I do want to say, though, every interaction I've had with your staff out there they've been overboard. They're great.
Great.
I mean, this is not an attack on.
Oh, no. And I don't
It's
feel
just
that way.
We
Thank
need
you.
to try to make a proactive move here to try to
Right.
clean this county up if we can.
We share your passion for that, and our Keep Harnett Beautiful committee shares the same passion, and we're going to keep fighting. I mean, it's a never-ending struggle. Like I mentioned, back in the 70s with those commercials, they were still struggling back then, and it seems to be a never-ending problem. But that doesn't mean we just quit fighting. So we're going to keep on keeping on. And
It's a struggle. It definitely is a struggle because I've had people to come to me and, Mr. McCoy, what can we do about people throwing mattresses and all of that outside that road and picking up trash and all of that? I said, well, I think the county has done a tremendous job in recruiting volunteers
Right.
to get out there and help. So I personally feel that sometimes people have to take responsibility for themselves.
And we've got a large county. I mean, primary roads, I think DOT said primary roads is 140 miles of shoulder road that they cover, and that's just primary. That's not secondary road. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention April is our spring litter sweep. So spread the word, civic groups, churches, school groups, and we do go out to school groups, civic groups to speak, to try to encourage with our education outreach program for Keep Harnett Beautiful, because that's where it starts. And I do have some flyers that Morgan Pope had prepared, and I'll be glad to pass them around to you to give you some stats on the last 2 years of how much we picked up, the number of volunteers that's helped, the number of miles and roadways we've covered. But we'll keep continuing, and I appreciate this dialogue. This is good. This is healthy. The more it's talked about, I think the more we can address the issue. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Appreciate
got one
what you
more
do.
thing to say. When you're making those flyers, do you distribute them in the churches?
We don't personally, but I mean, we have all that information on our website, or we could give you hard copies if you like.
Yeah, well, I think you all should find some kind of way to distribute them in the churches too.
Okay.
Because I think that would be effective to let people know. I mean,
Yes.
I take some to my churches, but I ain't going all over this county.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
If I may, on a different
No, I
and
wouldn't do that.
I don't expect you to have this information today, but sometime in the near future, could you give the manager a good faith estimate of what the expected life of our landfill at Coates is?
Yes, sir.
Because that's gonna be an expensive project when the time comes, and I'm sure there's millions of dollars of testing that has to be done, environmental studies and stuff at a new site. So we need to know as early as we can when that's coming.
Totally agree. Yes, sir. That's no problem.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Thank you all.
And we will review applications to serve on boards and committees. I think we have one application from District 1.
I don't know this lady. And I don't agree to appointing people to boards that I don't know. So I would have to talk to her and find out, why she wants to do this and what experience she has and all of that. I don't know anything about this lady. In fact, I don't even know anything about this committee.
You want to take a week to go ahead and possibly reach out?
I'm gonna need one. This is for, no, wait a minute, let me make sure. On the camera.
Mission for Women.
Oh, I know about this committee now. Organize this committee, but I don't know this person. Melissa Stevens.
Plays a vital role in women and children.
All right, we'll go ahead and hold this over till next week as well then. County Manager's Report, Mr. Trepp.
Thank you, Chairman. To continue on the discussion, one other item I wanted to bring up related to the litter is that in our budget process, we do have plans to add an expansion request that would allow us to extend the landfill hours so that the board can look at that. That will change staffing requirements, looking like needing to hire an additional person and extend others with overtime. And so we'll be looking at that when we get into the budget process. And then, as you mentioned, if we were to not charge for some of those large items, what that would do for our revenue, so that we can take a look at that as an additional potential change related to the solid waste issues. The Board of Elections is in the process of conducting their move to the new building along Alexander Drive. We hope to have that done with minor renovations in the spaces, 4 to 6 weeks to have everybody back in place in their new homes. Want to mention that our electric vehicle charging station out at the Jetport is now active, so that anyone in the county or passing through the county will be able to stop at our airport and charge up their vehicle. We're doing that in conjunction with a company called Link Charging, and so we get a portion of any electricity that's used through there. We get funding back for that. Tonight, town hall meeting at the Andrew Depot. I'm going to mention that, 6 o'clock. Budget meetings are ongoing this week. We will be doing 14 departments this week, so ongoing. And happy to announce that the application that we pursued last week related to the Revolutionary War celebration, signing of the Declaration of Independence, we did get approved for a $10,000 grant. So we'll begin to look for candidates to serve on that committee.
Outstanding. And I understand we have a need for closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for the following purposes: to discuss certain economic development matters and 2, consultation with and instructions to the county staff concerning the position to be taken by the county in negotiating a proposed contract for the acquisition of real property.
That's a mouthful. Second.
A motion and a second for closed session. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're in closed session.
Available.
closed session. I'll call the meeting back to order.
Mr. Chairman, any way possible at the next meeting, we can put a discussion item on the list about the fluoride? You know, we keep getting all the questions about it, and a little bit of research I've done on it. I think we need to have a discussion about it at least.
Would you like that at the next?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
Next work session or at our regular meeting next week?
Next work session's April 1st.
Which meeting would be better for that?
Probably a work session would be
That's
best.
fine.
Can you make that happen, Madam Clerk? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned.